then just one more thing, we are trying to do one night count, which I think is January 24th. It's a Thursday night, Friday morning, and it's just basically 1 a.m. to 5 a.m. We go out and we do a count of the number of homeless in the area. Me, Keegan, and I think there was one other person who was interested in leading a team for that. So if you guys are interested, me and Keegan will be sending out an email about that for more information. So look forward to that if you are interested. And then without further ado, let's welcome Renz. He'll be talking about how we can face homelessness. And yeah, let's give him a warm welcome.
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
How are y'all doing?
Good.
Yeah, good. Thank you for having me here. So I wanted to start by saying that when you all graduate, no matter what job you end up in, there's lots of ways to define jobs, but you can define it this way: there'll be two parts to that job. One part is comprised of all the things you're learning right now. The knowledge, the expertise that you're gaining, and that's knowledge and expertise that you're going to gain throughout your career, right? And that's one part. The other part is how you see the person that receives the service that you are providing. Okay, and both are equally important. Both rely on the other. One without the other is not doing any good. So really, the first basically is about what you know, and the second is about who you are. Okay, and I want to give you a little quick example on that, a personal example. So I'm an architect. I've had my own practice for 28 years doing residential architecture. And when I was your age, and I fell in love with architecture, it just changed my life. And I was like so excited about that. Just could not get enough of it. And when I graduated, I went out into the world. I got my job, and I was ready to practice architecture. And what really happened to me was that I learned that architecture is just the skill that you learn, but this very important component was the client, right? The person that I was actually working for, and I realized that without the client, without that connection, that relationship, without that energy that was going on between you and the client, that really the home that I was designing was just sticks and bricks and mortar. And really, at the end of the day, what gave meaning to that was what you and the person that you're working with formed. Okay, so I don't know how much you're in school that you're learning that, but it was kind of a surprise to me getting out, and it becomes a little bit of a recipe for life, knowing that whatever you engage in life, that what gives meaning to whatever that task is really the back and forth that you have with the person. The same thing for me now that I've actually quit my architecture firm and I started a nonprofit called Facing Homelessness. And what we're trying to do is raise awareness about the issue of homelessness. And I take photos and I tell stories on this Facebook site called Facing Homelessness. Anybody that's on Facebook here, please go to Facing Homelessness and like it and tell your mom about it. And I realized that the same thing was going on for me. That, taking a picture, basically a picture is just an image on a piece of paper. And that's it, right? But what really gives meaning to that picture, to that image, is the relationship that I had with the person when I was taking it. Not only in that moment does it feed what that image ends up looking like and feeling like, but it also is what stays with me. The image, the paper, it's going to disappear, it's going to be gone. Well, on the internet, it sticks around forever. But that's not what you keep with you. What you keep with you are those moments that you had with the person that you photographed and what came out of that. So, how does that relate to the School of Dentistry? And I would say it relates exactly in the same way it did to me for architecture, and it does to me now in photography. The most important thing that I can tell you today is it's about the person in front of you at any moment in time, whether you're out having fun or whether you're at work and you are helping someone with dentistry skills that you're going to learn here at the university. Okay, so what I'm going to do today is I'm not going to tell you about charts and graphs and statistics and programs and things that could aid your knowledge about dentistry. I'm really going to just talk to you about the person, specifically the person that's going through homelessness. The reason that's important is because what I'm talking about really is seeing a person accurately. And the negative stereotype against homelessness puts us at a disadvantage already right off the bat, because we think we know what homelessness is about. We think we know what that person that's homeless is about, because we've been told by our culture what that looks like. And I want to take us through a little bit of a discussion that would maybe begin a shift, if you haven't already in your life, to see it differently. I also want to introduce a friend of mine. This is Brandon Fisher, and Brandon spent some time homeless, and he also received some dental care at a really important time for him, and he wants to share a little bit about that when I get done talking. And then following that, we'd be happy to take some questions as well. So, let me ask a question first, and just yell it out. How many people do you think are homeless in King County? Just throw out some numbers.
2,000.
Okay, that's an excellent, forget the rest of you. way to speed the thought now. Okay, so there are about 10,000. What happened to the 2,430? So there are about 10,000 people that are homeless in King County right now. And I don't know about you, but for me, I can't get my head around that number. I actually don't know how to feel. How do I actually feel about 10,000 people in King County alone being homeless, right? There's over 600,000 in this country, which is even a harder number to get around. But let's just talk about 10,000. How do you feel about that? I can't move that understanding out of my head into my heart. And this is, I think, a very important point, because we spend a lot of time collecting information in our life, and we put it in our head, and it prepares us for things that are coming at us and the things that we want to move out into. But we don't really move forward on something until it affects us in our heart. Like, we emotionally really want to get involved in this, right? And there are lots of examples of that in our life. I think we all experience that. So this is an image of 90 group photos, 90 repeating group photos. You can kind of see the pattern. In each group photo, there's 112 people, all of whom either are or have been homeless. Right? So this represents the number of people in King County right now looking out at you that are homeless. And this also, to me, reflects how we as a culture see homelessness. We see it as a group. Like, it's very difficult right now to pull out a person in this, right? And even more, to connect with that person. But they're there, 10,000 of them. So when we take one of those groups of 112 people, and so we look a little closer, something starts to happen, I think, within all of us. I know it does in me. And that is, you start to now look at the faces. You start to see the person. For instance, if you come down on the first row, come down to the fifth person, the guy with the hat. Everybody see him there? The hat and the beard. That's Dinkus McGank. Okay? And when I come a little closer and I look at Dinkus, something magical starts to happen for me. I start to wonder who he is. Right? So when I go to here, I'm interested in the fact that these are all these faces, and when I'm here, I'm thinking of the group. But when I come actually to this man, I start to ask, who is this person? Especially if I have the opportunity to meet him, like I did. This is a bench in Fremont just down below my office, which is, this is the Ship Canal out in front, and behind that is the Burt Gilman Trail. And my office was just on the other side of that trail. And Dinkus was a logger out on the Olympic Peninsula for years, received this injury because of a runaway log that hit him in the middle of his back. He was being flown in the medevac helicopter to Harborview. He died on the way, was brought back to life, spent months in the hospital, left disabled, became homeless, and lived on this bench for 2 years below my office. Here he is one night, tucking himself in. I was heading home from work, and I came down to say goodnight. Here he is one morning, tending his little bucket fire. During this time, I took Dinkus to the UW emergency room here an uncountable number of times. There's a stack of bills sent to my office, about that thick when I compress them. Half of them open, all of them unpaid, which is a little bit of another discussion about the craziness of how we're wasting money in this system. Instead of housing people, we're moving towards them with services and trying to fix the problem once it's literally bleeding in front of you. This was Dinkus's foot for a good deal of that time. Most of us that got to know Dinkus, friends that were homeless also, and a few other people that were living along or had offices along the canal there, really believed that he was going to lose not only his foot, but potentially his leg. Often from the knee down, his whole leg and foot would just go through these periods of swelling up to twice its size and coming back down, swelling up. It was horrible. This is a photo of a sandwich that Dinkus left in his backpack one night, that rats had eaten through the backpack and then found the sandwich and eaten into the sandwich. And this is there's so many truths that I didn't know about homelessness until I started doing this work. And one of them is, if you're homeless and you leave food in your backpack, the rats will come. It's just a matter of time. And rats and raccoons. Okay? So during these 2 years, I took a lot of photos of this. And the thing about Dinkus that made it easy to take photos of him is, here he is on the cover of Real Change, is that he's a bit of a photo hog. He actually really enjoys having his photo taken. Now some of it I think that's his personality, but this is another thing about people that are homeless. They feel invisible. And if you can imagine, spending your whole day, everyone around you ignoring you. In fact, getting up and walking away from you when you sit down next to them. Imagine that for a day, how you would feel, how that would begin to attack your self-esteem. And then imagine that happening for weeks, months, and then years for people. Right? How that would debilitate you, and how fairly crass comments like, just get a job, asshole, or something like that, how that has no meaning to someone who has lost their self-esteem, right? So the second winter that Dinkus was on the bench below my office, he was getting a little depressed. You could see it, and all his friends knew it. And I took one of the photos that I had taken of him, and I blew it up to bigger than life size, and I put it in my architecture office window so that when he woke up in the morning and he kind of turned his neck, he could look up and see himself in the window, and that way he wouldn't have to wake up alone. Now, albeit it was with himself, but it still worked for him. He would come into my office in the morning, and he's also quite a ham, and he would come in and he would say, "Good morning, Rex." And then he would look to himself at the window and he would say, "Good morning, Dinkus." And then he would go get a cup of coffee and sit and hang out for a while. This is another thing that I want to just share with you. If you all find yourself providing service, aid, comfort in your profession to someone that's homeless, they feel starved for human contact, for human connection. It's very important. Little things make a big difference. Little things that we take for granted. One morning, Dinkus was coming up from his bench to make his trek up to my office, and a woman that was running down the Burt Gilman Trail saw Dinkus walking up. He was kind of just getting up. He was tired, and he gets up to near the top of the steps, and she sees him, and she looks over at the window, and she looks back at him, and then she stops, and she says, "Oh my God, are you that man in the window over there?" And Dinkus, that wakes him up, and he does his classic, puts his hands on his hips, and he puffs his chest out, and he says, "Well, ma'am, in fact, yes, I am." And the woman said, "Oh my God, you are famous. Can I get your autograph?" And to this day, that was, I don't know how many years ago that was now, that was 3 or 4 years ago. To this day, Dinkus will tell that story, and this giant smile will come over his face, and of course then you'll be smiling too. Dinkus, for me, made my life richer. Just knowing him, he jumped my life forward in this beautiful way, and it surprised me, because this was a man that was just living down by the side of the ship canal on a bench. He is full of life wisdoms. One of my favorites is that he says constantly to people is, if you aren't making one person smile a day, what are you doing? Right? Like, you could live your life by that philosophy. Right? So, Dinkus is also in housing now. He's been in housing downtown Seattle for 2 years. And he also has almost 2 years of sobriety, something that I never thought would happen. All of that time on the bench, he drank heavily, and he was trying to kill the pain, the aloneness, the fear, all of that goes along with homelessness, that all people that are homeless face. It is a scary experience, especially for women. A number of women would come into my office that had just been raped, that were homeless, right? It's something that we're blind to. I lived most of my life, I lived all my life in Seattle, all of it blind to that until 6 years ago. And it's all happening right in front of us all the time. Dinkus, we had some things like pink shirts that we were selling for a while. Dinkus is better off for being in housing now, but this is the other thing. Housing First, which is a beautiful program, and it's important. It's not everything. And this is the thing that our nonprofit is trying to message, is that we cannot leave the discussion and the fixing of homelessness to government, nonprofits, and religious institutions. It needs to be us, all of us, every single one of us. And I want to talk a little bit more about that in a short bit. Dinkus is having a hard time. He feels that since he's moved inside, he's lost all his friends. Since he's stopped drinking specifically, he's lost his friends. And he's self-harming, he's cutting. Right? So it's complicated. Just giving housing is not the answer. We need connection. We need people to say, "I love you." We need to say, "I see you." We need people to listen to you, right, when you're suffering through something. So the reason that I wanted to, I'll go back here for a second. The reason that I wanted to share this about Dinkus with you, take so much time about just him, is that his story is repeated out 10,000 times for every one of those people that are finding themselves homeless in King County right now. And that was last year's count. It's more now. Right? It went up 21% last year. It went up 14% the year before. It's clearly, if you live in Seattle, you know how this has increased. And so it's going to be in excess of 10,000 so far. Every single person has their story that's unfolding for them. It's an unfolding crisis for them. And so how do we move forward on that? As I mentioned earlier, one of the problems is that we keep this information in our heads, and if we don't move that to our hearts, we won't make an action. We'll just be knowledgeable. We'll just be able to be at a dinner table and actually have a conversation intelligently, but still not have done anything. Okay, the point is to get involved. So I'm going to give you a quick example. This is Byron. If I tell you about Byron, and Byron is homeless, if I tell you about Byron and I tell you about 10 other friends that regularly came to my office, Sean and Mark and Phil and Cecil and Sam and Pete and Courtney and Joe and Paul and Tim and Ann. I just take these 11 people and I show you their pictures, and I know I went too fast because I'm feeling like I'm under a time constraint. And I tell you something beautiful about them. Each person, I tell you something really beautiful, and I also tell you something about their struggles, about the pain that they're going through in their life, and what their friendship means to me, right? And then I tell you that all of these 11 people would be to start small. We know the issue's so big, we don't need a big solution for the big problem. All you need to do is somehow get into the issue in the slightest, simplest way. It's like learning to swim. You don't jump into the deep end, you go into the kiddie pool. So I want all of you to start in the kiddie pool of homelessness. And just start simple, and you can do that by just saying hello. It's free, it's easy, all of you know how to do it. You don't need to stop even. You can just say hello to someone. You can make eye contact, you can smile, you can roll the window. Actually, that's my age group. You can lower the window of your car and say to the person standing there flying the sign something nice. You don't even have to give money. You're not obligated to give money. You're obligated to give dignity and respect, right? So start simply with an act of kindness, as small as you want. You can also go, as part of this first step, you can go to our Facebook site, which has basically stories, photos, black and white photos, and stories for 6 years. There are 30,000 people following it in 45 countries. For 6 years we've been making asks on there. Also, all those asks have been met. Right? So it's this beautiful, compassionate, empathetic community. You can also go to Instagram and type in Facing Homelessness and find it there too. But you can go to that site, you can read the stories. If you want, you can like, you can comment, you can donate. You can do all these things that are still fairly outside of any direct contact. And you can stay there as long as you like, but I would encourage you to start. Just begin. If and when you're ready, you can then do something more engaging. You can come to our office and actually meet with people. You can do projects with us. You can, we're starting a community center that's going to be specifically doing that, but there are lots of other ways to do it. You can go to a food bank, a soup kitchen. You can call any one of the organizations in the city and actually have face-to-face interaction, okay, when you're ready. The third step is to then ask yourself these two questions. What are you good at? And what are you passionate about? And find a life project that combines the answer of those two questions that you can now do to make someone that's outside homeless feel more loved, more cared for, more seen, helped if needed be. And it can be super small, it can be really big. It doesn't matter, and there are examples all through organizations of people engaging in that. It's not important what you're doing, it's only important that you are doing something. Okay? So I'm going to stop there. And maybe if you have questions, leave it to the end. And invite Brandon to come up and share a little bit about what he's experienced.
All right.
Okay.
Hey, what's up, guys? I can smile at you today like that. It's not the prettiest set of teeth, but it's a set nonetheless. And because a year and a half ago, though, that wasn't the case. I was, see if I can fake you out with some of my dentees here. So like number 8 right here was missing, and right next to it, number 9, the mesial-occlusal distal facial was gone. It was like shellac-dackled, and so like it needed fixing, and so but I didn't, you know, in in the grips of homelessness and poverty, it's hard to find the resources to get something major like that done, especially when, like a lot of times, they'll give you just enough insurance, health insurance for the poor. They get just enough health insurance to, like, if you need to go in and, get to the ER or something, or stupid stuff, but they won't give you dental insurance, and it usually doesn't cover, most of what you need for the medical anyway. But in my travels and in my desire to, like, rise from the ashes of homelessness and, try and fight back against what I knew that I was, that I could rise above if I would just, focus myself, get sobriety, and just do my best to fight my way back into society. That's hard to do, when you're missing teeth, and it's so important to make first impressions, to get up in the morning and know that, you're kind of seen as, oh, I bet that's another one of Seattle's infamous junkies. Or, the millions of labels that you give to people that look disadvantaged. And so clearly, obviously, you when you have a full set of teeth, you feel better about it. You have more confidence to go out and get the services that you need to get to interact with people in society, and feel good enough about yourself to think, yes, I deserve these services, and so I'm going to do what I can to get them. I came across this program called Donated Dental, and all I had to do to meet their requirements was, obviously show them that, I'm way below the poverty line. And also that I just had to have a couple people vouch for me that said that, as like kind of character references, that said I wasn't going to waste your time, and I was going to show up to the appointments that you guys would schedule for me, as or that they were going to schedule for me, the dentist. And so I met those requirements, and then a year and a half ago, they take the little implant, send it off, they come back, this part here was just like half a tooth. They took the implant, or whatever you want to call it, and sent it off. They made a tooth that would replace this on here, and then it attached to the half a tooth right here. So these two teeth connect to the half of the tooth that was here. They just fitted it right on, had me lie down for a bit, and boom, like shined like some kind of crazy blue light on it. It bonded, and then see, there I am. I got a full smile again, and that gives me the strength and the self-image, and then I instantly, I don't smile like this anymore. I smile, normally, and then that, slowly people respond, and that builds up your confidence, and you're able to take things, even further. So, then, I'm searching for stable housing. I managed to put that together. I've been in stable housing for I think almost a year. I've had my own place. I rent a room in West Seattle, and then so many other things. The biggest of which is after 20 years of just the most debilitating heroin addiction. And during those 20 years, I never had more than like 3, 4. I think maybe once I had 5 months clean, but today now I have a year and a half. Clean from I work, I got wheels, I got my license, but I also have the the confidence and the self-worth to keep it all going, and then it just it starts to snowball. So the act of finding people that were willing to donate their time to a program called Donated Dental to help me put my smile back together gives me the confidence to go out and just, start knocking down the, the obstacles that just after a while start falling like dominoes, because you start to, the snowball effect takes place, and you just, you get stuff done. And that's where I am today, because, people understand, come together as a community, understand, the value in, helping people to come back from, to face their struggles and to re-enter society and, free yourself from the shackles of poverty and homelessness and all that. Like, I've been out there, I've flown the sign. I've done, slept in my car, slept in church doorways, on beaches, on benches. I've, just dived into the Puget Sound to take a bath. Anything that I've done over the years to just to keep my self together. But yeah, one of the most significant was definitely getting my smile fixed, and so that's why I wanted to talk to you guys today about that. So. Yeah.
Randy, you want to come up? Do you guys have any questions?
Oh yeah, that's right.
Any? Yeah.
I'm just curious to find out more about the program, whether it was down school or private dentists who did it.
Yeah, it was. It was a practice. Guy is in the medical dental building, just north of Nordstrom's there, downtown. And yeah, he has a private practice up there. But he still has his, there was an assistant that he has that worked on me, and as well as an intern. And even the the smile from the girl at the front desk, goes a long way. So yeah, I don't think it, whatever you're doing, I think it you can come into contact with it. Where there's a will, there's a way, I'm sure. But yeah, it was a private practice.
I was taking the bus yesterday to get to school, and I sat down in the only seat that was left open. And it turned out that the person next to me was someone who was homeless. And he initiated the conversation, just like you were mentioning. And as we started talking, he asked me, do you know of any establishments where I can find a job? I kind of listed, I've been going to these health and homelessness seminars now for 2 years. I kind of listed, the things that would come off the top of my head. But at the end of the day, while I knew a lot about where homeless people could get dental care, I kind of ran out of ideas as to where they could find a job. So I eventually took him to the School of Social Work, because I figured I'm going to UW, he's on the same bus as I am. Let's go to the School of Social Work, and they'll probably be able to direct him in the right path. My question to you, I guess, is where, I was very frustrated with myself to not necessarily know exactly how to move forward with this situation. What would you?
Well, I will first relieve you of your frustration. It's not just you. It's everybody that works in this field, that is an activist or providing services. Best way I can say. Well, I'm going to answer your question first. There are labor readies, and there are places that people can go get jobs, and Brandon might be able to speak a little bit to this too. But here's the problem: is that most people that have fallen into homelessness have fallen in for some. Nobody chooses it, first of all. So you fall into it for some reason, and often you have to take care of that primary reason before somebody is actually capable of holding down a job. And that's where we as a community really fail. Like there are mental health issues, there's substance abuse issues. Homelessness is in itself a form of trauma, right? So just taking somebody out of trauma and plopping them in a job, you're setting them up to fail, I feel, a lot of times. Now, Brandon actually got very, very fortunate, very lucky. I'll let you tell the story when you were flying a sign.
Right, yeah, so first of all, yeah, getting a job, so, yeah, you have to have your ID, and, you know, in homelessness, that's sometimes that can be a challenge. Then you have to have a, you know, social security, all that, you know, your credentials, and then a way to, you know, for someone to get a hold of you, so, you know, a line, a number. Right, yeah, but yeah, I was out flying a sign one day, and fortunately, I was just starting to put, you know, enough of a foundation together that I was really lucky. Someone rolled up on me one day, and while I was flying a sign, and said, well, here, why don't you come to my warehouse, and I've got some work for you to do on come up, you know, next Monday. I think it's on a Friday or Saturday or something, and sure enough, you know, I showed up. They were not expecting me to be there, but you know, apparently I made a good impression that day that they invited me back the next day, and then the day after that, and then that turned into the week, and then next week, and then that turned into the month, which turned into the job that I had for, you know, a year and a half. So yeah, it all depends on, you know, where the person's at, and you know, what they're capable of you know, keeping together at any given point in their struggle.
It's really difficult, you know, to find work for people, even when it's painful to hear when people will come to you and say, you know, I'll do anything, right? Like, I'll do anything. I don't care if it's sweeping your front lawn or cleaning your toilet, right? When people are saying that, it's very hard to say, we don't have a job for you, right? And the truth is, it's so much more complex than just giving a job.
I guess I'll rephrase my question a little bit. Is what I was thinking, you know, is more taking into the school social work, is that I know there's entities out there and organizations that kind of help people all around in all, you know, all the realms of life. And I thought the school social health would be, a social work would be able to kind of triage that.
Yeah.
I guess my question is, are there, sorry?
Were they able to help?
I mean, they took him in, and they helped him. Then I had to head to class. I was already late, almost late. But I guess my question is, I know there's organizations out there that take care of, you know, of people that can help in, you know, all these realms of life. This man seems fully capable.
Well, okay, so I might not be the right person to answer it, but here's the best answer I have. If you're on the street, you need to get into some program, and you need to get a caseworker, right? So whether that's start with DSHS or the REACH program or any number of other programs that are out there, you have to get a caseworker, because navigating the system on your own is almost impossible. I've been on the phone before trying to do that, and I'm a pretty patient person, and I would, after an hour on the phone, I say, you know, to the person, you know, I got a college education. I've been running my own business for 25 years. I don't know what to tell the person that's standing next to me what to do next based on this hour conversation. It's really complicated and frustrating. But there are, depending on that person's abilities, their resources, their skills, there are programs such as Fair Start, for instance. Has anybody heard of Fair Start before? It's an organization, downtown, nonprofit, and they run a restaurant, and they have guest chefs there, and they have people that are homeless come in, and they go through a program, and they become wait staff, and they start to work in the kitchen. And the goal is that they teach a trade. They teach somebody how to work in the restaurant industry, and they will, if they move through that program successfully, they will help them find housing too. But those type of programs, honestly, are far and few between. It's I don't know if you know anyone you can speak of.
No, those two that you listed earlier, the REACH program and DSHS, you know, that's like where you would go first, you know, to kind of, as far as you were talking about triage, that's the ones I know best about.
But those are not usually ending in jobs. It's really difficult. There's a lot of stuff that has to happen before somebody's willing to take you on. We, on the homeless, or on the Facing Homelessness page, we have found people jobs before, but it's difficult because people don't want to take a chance with their place of employment. Didn't really answer your question, but
No,
it's as good as I got.
No, I understand. I understand the complexity of it.
She's got a question.
Yeah.
So another stereotype here, when you talk about filling a sign, two questions about it. One, how do you know that that person's really homeless? And you know, you hear these stories about people who drive, like walk around the block to their car and go back to their like nice house and stuff. And then two, what about the stereotype where someone's like, oh, if I give them, you know, money, they're just gonna spend it on drugs and alcohol?
Yeah, I can answer that like perfectly. So first of all, I mean, come on, don't believe Fox News when they tell you that the guy that's applying the sign on the corner of the street, you know, is going to go back to his, you know, nice house, you know, up in, you know, Kirkland or Bellevue or wherever, and you know, he's going to drive back there after he's done flying the sign in his BMW. That's just, you know, that's completely ludicrous. That's ridiculous. Second of all, the person that that you see flying the sign that you decide to help or that you do want to be active as far as providing them with something other than just, you know, an acknowledgement of their humanity, which is, you know, is totally acceptable, which lightened my day like many times. And gave me actually the will to stay out there. But so many times, yeah, in active addiction, I did take that money and I spent it on drugs. But also, the end of the day, you know, I knew to save a little bit of that because I was freaking starving. And so, yeah, okay, after I got my fix and I got well, I did take that money and, you know, some of that money that I got, and I ate that day, and I had bus fare, and I had laundry quarters, and I had all this stuff to do what I needed to do to function normally as a human being in spite of my, you know, just horribly afflicting disease. And even though, you know, all the times that I was given money, that slowly built up, and I just, you know, I knew that this was not, that this could not, I couldn't continue to maintain this. And like eventually all the dollars and nickels and everything that I was given piled up on me so high that I realized that, you know, okay, this is not sustainable. I have to change. I'm better than this. And boom, you know, then the day came where, you know, that I came out of the ashes and started putting everything back together that I needed to put together in order to get out of it. So yeah, don't trip on that.
Yeah, and I would add something else too, because a lot of people do trip up on, the first one is, I would completely agree, I've never seen that. And I know so many people that fly signs. I mean, I don't think I can say thousands of them, but maybe 1,000, right? That people go home after they fly their sign to a tarp under a bridge. I mean, it's just crazy. There's a fleet of cars out there waiting for people that are flying signs. But the bigger one that trips people up is the giving money. And I would say this, that it's not your obligation to give money. You should only give money when your heart tells you to. And that goes back to that idea that you're listening to something within you, and that's important. But even more of a clear reason on this for me is that giving money is a two-part process. It's giving and it's receiving, right? So when you give a present to your mom, you don't give it and then say, but I only want you to use it on Tuesdays and when I'm with you, right? Like, you give it because it's a gift. And the moment that it trades hands, that second, your act is done. It's over. You fulfilled your part. Their part now is to act responsibly with it. If they don't, it's on them. It's not on you. I'm going to give you a really quick story, if we have time for this. There was a man flying a sign named Rudy down by the intersection in Montclair. If anybody's ever seen Rudy, he's got a sign. He's got a bunch of scripture always written on it. And I got to know Rudy, and we would chat on my bike ride home all the time. I stopped. And one day I just said to Rudy, like, what would you need to really make a difference in your life? And Rudy said, well, you know, I live with my wife in the woods by Green Lake, and I got to hop a bus down here, and sometimes I don't have the money, and also it just depletes my resources, because the bus is expensive. And he said, you know, I really could use a bike. So I I said, okay, so I took Rudy's picture, told Rudy's story. Next day, a woman calls me and says, I'm gonna bring a bike to you. I bought it 3 years ago. I thought I was gonna be a biker, but it's been in my shed the whole time. I've never used it. I wanna give it to Rudy. So I walk to work, ride Rudy's new bike home, and to where Rudy's standing. I give him the bike, he's ecstatic, jumping up and down. I walk home just about 6 blocks further. My wife says, the printer's out of ink, I'm gonna go to the print store, to the Office Depot, and I said, no, I'll just go. And so I get in the car, I go past where Rudy is, and he's gone. And I'm thinking to myself, like, oh, Rudy's riding his bike home. You know, it's like just this happy little feeling. And I go a couple more blocks, and there's Rudy with the bike and a big sign that says, bike $350. And I pulled over, and I come up to Rudy, and I'm not mad, but I'm like flabbergasted. I'm just astounded. And I said, hey, Rudy, what's up? And that's the point in the conversation. If I was Rudy, I would have turned bright red and I would start squawking like a little chicken or something. I'm sorry, whatever. And Rudy looks at me and he goes, not much, what's up with you? And I go, well, Rudy, you know, you told me you wanted the bike to basically ride home, and now you're selling it. I feel, I'm just not mad, but I feel like I just got to say it. I feel like you lied to me. And Rudy goes, I didn't lie to you. I go, well, and he goes, I just have that sign out there as a lure, so to get people to stop. They're not going to buy the bike for $350, but they might give me a couple bucks because they feel bad for me because I need to sell my bike. And I thought, crap, Rudy is a smart person. Didn't think about that. And I said, well, okay, Rudy, here's the deal. You were lying to someone. You're lying to me or you're lying to the motorist. And then he said it. He said, look, Rex, you gave me the bike as a gift. It's not yours anymore. I said, whoa, Rudy, you're absolutely right. You know, that's 100% correct. So I think the answer to your question is you act on your compassion, and you don't worry about what that person is doing. And what Brandon said is so true. They're all piling up as acts of love that will be felt, and you act upon at some point.
Thank you.
Thank you.